So many people are looking to live happier, more stress-free lives. We provide interviews from mental health experts across various fields because we know finding quality information isn't always easy. Let's find more sanity together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Sanity Podcast, an ABCT collaboration. I am incredibly excited to get started on this venture. I've been a member of ABCT for years. Many of the members have been on my podcast before, and I kind of sourced through you guys to find some good speakers to come in. And now we're collaborating together where ABCT is helping curate a guest list and help make the process happen. So hopefully we have greater episodes for clinicians to really get this CBT dissemination out there in a way that's completely free. And hopefully this could also go to consumers so they could learn more about quality therapy. That's my little pitch about why I'm so excited about this ABCT Sanity Podcast. But before we jump in and hear why ABCT is excited about it, let me introduce our two guests that we have here today. They might look very familiar and their names will sound very familiar. We have Dr. Jill Ehrenreich-May, who is the outgoing president of ABCT, which stands for the Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies. I should have said that before. It's a national CBT organization that looks to share our research and train and disseminate CBT at the national level. She is also a professor and associate chair for graduate studies in the Department of Psychology at the University of Miami. She directs a community research clinic at the University of Miami, the Child and Adolescent Mood and Anxiety Treatment Program, which serves as a hub for training and dissemination of evidence-based practice in youth psychotherapy, particularly on transdiagnostic treatment. We also have Dr. Sandra Pimentel. She is the incoming president of ABCT, so the torch will be passed on in about a week. Congratulations.
Thank you.
She is the chief of child and adolescent psychology, associate director of psychology training, and associate professor of clinical psychology in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Montefiore Medical Center and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. She is the founding director of the Anxiety and Mood Program, a specialty program in the Child Outpatient Psychiatric Division, and co-director of the Becoming an Emerging Adult, both at Montefiore. In 2022, she received the Psychology Internship Training Program Award for Excellence in Education. And in 2023, she received the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences Award for Outstanding Membership. Both of you, welcome to our first collaboration episode.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so I jumped into my spiel because I'm very excited. But why don't we hear from you what this collaboration means to you and why we're doing this?
Well, I'll go first. I think first of all, thank you so much for having ABCT collaborate with your podcast. And we're thrilled to be working with you. And I know that this has been something that has been dreamed of for quite a while now. And, ABCT really has at its heart a mission to disseminate the best in evidence-based and clinical science, particularly as it relates to cognitive and behavioral therapies. And as we do that in a more modern time, we really need to think about different ways to reach our members, different ways to reach the public with this information. And so it seemed a really wonderful option to add a podcast to our channels for dissemination of that information. So this is a really exciting new opportunity for us.
Yeah, I don't know if I have more to add than that, but, I get to be in several meetings with Jill, and I'll take any opportunity to hang out and talk ABCT with her in addition.
Okay. So again, welcome to the collaboration. What you could expect is a lot more episodes coming from us. Some episodes that we have coming up is an episode on OCD, harms in therapy, an episode on autism. So we're going to have a wide spectrum of episodes for people to listen to and hopefully get good dissemination out there. So stay tuned. Okay. So let's jump into the meat of this episode. This episode is called The State of ABCT. So basically, what I wanted to hear from both of you, since you've been working so diligently over the last year, is what the initiatives and accomplishments that you guys are proud of over this year. What's looking different about this convention and what can we be excited about, and what we're looking towards for the next year. So why don't we start with the year that is past? What initiatives and works have you done so far for membership and the community and ABCT as a whole?
It's been a long year. I was trying to think back to where we started a year ago. I think that if I were to summarize the initiatives that we've undertaken this year have had a real theme about inclusion and really wanting ABCT to feel like a more equitable space, a more inclusive space, a more welcoming space in a lot of ways, including diversity. And I think in order to achieve that, we have focused on a lot of what might feel like smaller things to a certain extent, to broaden the reach of what we do and to broaden the diversity of the membership, in order to kind of achieve that outcome. And so, for example, we made a bylaws change this year to allow students to vote and nominate in elections. And while that might seem like to some people perhaps a small thing, it is a huge thing because students make up an enormous part of our membership. And now all membership categories can really select our leaders and nominate our leaders, which we hope eventually will result in a more diverse slate within the board as well. We have really taken a high transparency, high accountability model into evaluating what our needs are as it relates to diversity and equity and inclusion in the organization. We partnered with an organization called Bear Mental Health and Wellness this year. Well, actually going back a little bit into last year, to really evaluate our needs from a qualitative and quantitative perspective, really engaging with our membership around that as well. And then tried to be responsive both to what Bear was telling us in their report, as well as, other initiatives that people had been thinking about for some time, but perhaps felt, and I guess this is another way in which we've achieved a lot of key initiatives this year, that we weren't as nimble around our budget in order to achieve them. So for example, I think that we have tried to increase the student convention passes to, allow students who might be lower resource or might have difficulty otherwise attending the convention to come. So more of those. We have tried to, allow more of our budget to other initiatives like the Interorganizational Task Force on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity and Expression Change efforts as well. So those are just a few of the things, but I think they kind of fall into this broader theme of inclusion.
Yeah, I can certainly jump in and thinking about even, each sort of board builds on the momentum from the boards that come before. And sometimes there's incremental change and other times you see a larger leap. And I feel this year in particular, we took some larger leaps, particularly with kind of putting money where our values are. And I think we were able to do that thanks in part to previous boards, for example. We were coming out of the pandemic and having had 2 virtual conferences, and there's a lot of instability in that, and sort of being able to navigate some unknown and uncharted territory when it came to our financial, viability in whatever world that existed a couple of years ago, not to bring that up again. And we were able to do so very much because of the work of previous boards, very much because of the work of our central office and some of the more conservative approaches. And then because of that, coming out of, I think, some of those situations, and very much because of the recommendations of the Bear consultants that we hired and a task force that we had on DEIJ that was commissioned in 2019 that sort of laid a little bit of scaffolding for that. we were able to really, I think, say, okay, how can we be better about giving it away, right? And that's going to be a theme that I think keeps coming up, and it certainly will be is a part of this past year, and I think we'll hope to continue into the future. And so I think that's another aspect of it. We really, based on the reports of both the task force and BEAR, have been more, I guess, explicit in our involvement and inclusion of our special interest groups. We have a very vibrant SIG group. I don't even know, 48, 50? I don't know how many we have. 48. It keeps growing, and it's really wonderful. And that's really sort of the local spaces where a lot of our members exist, especially our graduate students. And the thing I love about ABCT, and I loved it, and which is why I sort of kept operating in it and being in service of it, because when I was a grad student, it easily became my professional home. And I think the SIGs in particular were spaces that in this very big space you could find, community and collaboration and networking and things like that. So very much through the work of the board this year, really putting more money into the special interest groups, and especially a lot allocating more money to our minoritized and marginalized groups. And that was very much under the direction of our board and Jill, really pushing for that to happen, and to happen quickly. We had a strategic planning meeting in May. Was it in May? And
it was in May.
And because of, I think, Jill's emphasis on accountability, by August, we had a lot of the points that were sort of delineated happening. And that didn't happen as nimbly, to use Jill's word, in other situations.
And I said that I would leave the future to later, but it seems very pertinent now, right? No matter how much we try to get done, we can never get as much done as we want to, right? And there's probably initiatives that you have ongoing, or initiatives that you started but maybe didn't pan out as well as you would hope, because that's life. So in diversity, inclusion, and welcomingness, if that's a word, what can we expect moving forward in this area that might be mapped out a bit, if there's anything you can share?
Well, I think there are two things that I can talk about, and then, Sandy can share her vision for the future, since she'll be taking over shortly. I think two things that are kind of, weren't left on the table, but I think we know need more emphasis, are one, some central office staffing around diversity issues. This is something that was recommended in the BEAR report, and we have allocated the potentially in the budget, which will get voted on at the November convention, to, in fact, hire staff that have this kind of area of specialization, because we did launch a lot of programs. We launched the Change Leaders program. We, did more acknowledgement of service to members. We did, these additional, supports of particularly our minoritized, but all SIGs. And we want to see these programs grow and expand over time. And so having, that staffing in central office, I think, is really important to continue that on. And then the other area where I think we need to continue to work, and this is absolutely zero shade to our Leadership and Elections Committee that has just worked so hard over this last year toward this goal. But I think we need to continue to diversify the slate of individuals running for office. I think we've made some progress in that area. But, as was indicated, a lot of these changes, this emphasis on accountability, some of this has accelerated over the last year or two within the board. And I think will continue to grow under Sandy's leadership. And I think as a result, I'm hoping that it feels like a safer space for more diverse members and our minoritized members to run for office and enjoy the leadership experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's right. There's some hiring to do, to sort of investing in both people and some of the programs. I'm certainly invested, moving forward with the board as we move forward from today and the conference, and continuing the Change Leaders program, and continuing to figure out a way to keep funding students who want to come. And, we had a massive amount of applications, and that hurts my heart, right? That we cannot fund all of them. And I think we need to find a way, right? To find a way to give that away so that students can come if they want to come. And stay tuned for more on that, hopefully. And so sort of continuing some of the work, and then maybe expanding some of the areas of accessibility, both in terms of our our conference, but also in terms of our stuff, whether it's webinars or publications or, making more of our content more freely available, making our content more accessible. Yeah. I think Jill mentioned transparency before. Continuing on that front, we've invited the change leaders to come to part of our board meeting next week. We've invited the public to come to parts of our board meeting, I think quarterly now, and we invite people to come. I think both Jill and I have invited folks to reach out as needed because we want to hear from people and hopefully, continuing to expand that willingness, that openness. We are a diverse membership and trying to listen and learn and sort of hear from folks what they want from us, and hopefully we can continue some of that.
And from my understanding, I think when membership has reached out, because they had concerns, they actually got your ears in many cases. So it wasn't like the people in the top areas of elected, I guess, a power position in the organization were not involved. Am I right in my understanding of that?
Yeah, for sure. I it's really important to me personally to understand and identify that I have one lived experience that informs my perspective on things. And that's certainly not the only perspective on a lot of issues. It's humbling to understand the things that you don't see about a particular situation. And listening directly to our members has been incredibly important as we grow and we make mistakes and we change and, we evolve from them. And so I've been really appreciative of the members who have felt willing to share their experience with us over the years, over the years, but particularly in this last year. Sandy and I recently have been meeting with some people together, and that's been a great experience as well, just to kind of really think about what we're doing right now, but also to think about how those experiences of our members, might inform future activities too.
One initiative when we were thinking about this collaboration and the podcast is having, there are many researchers, psychologists, clinicians that are brilliant and have a lot to teach us, but they might not have had their name broadcasted as widely. And so what we find is that the same names keep getting turned to, and then there almost becomes this like sounding box of this person is the expert. So one thing that you could expect from this podcast over time as a dual initiative is to give voice to awesome people that might not have had that chance. So I'm really excited about that. And part of the reason why I'm excited about that was because I created this podcast so I could have a voice. Right. So I could be heard. And so if I could take that platform that I use for me and help other people do that, that would just be awesome. So I'm very excited for that part of the initiative. Is there anything, so this is about inclusion, welcomeness, looking forward, and we'll just stick to this area now. Any other initiatives that, and Sandy, this is probably going to you, any other initiatives that we could look forward to that you guys are priming or thinking of as we move into the new ABCT year?
Yeah, I think aim number one is not to mess up all the good work that has been done so far and to keep investing people and money into initiatives. And in part, we are behaviorist scientists. We want to assess. Are we hitting the notes we want to hit, whether it's with the change leaders or the SIGs and giving them money and how are they using that money and how can we support that infrastructure in a better way. And so assessing and sort of pivoting based on the data that we get in looking at taking an honest look at some of these initiatives, hopefully, and continuing to fund the ones and the aspects that work. That's one part. That's one part of it. One of the other areas that I hope to sort of continue is this area, obviously answering some of the questions and the recommendations in the Bear report and really paying attention to, there's so much good information there that, you can look at it over and over and over again, and it needs to get looked at with fresh eyes. And so, again, as we get and maybe do some of the hiring that we need to do, bring in new people. This is a new board that turns over coming next Saturday or whenever that happens. And so, taking fresh eyes to the reports rather than having, a task force report or another report that languishes when there's a new sort of turnover. So I want to make sure with intentionality to do that and see what needs to happen there. One of the themes that's sort of near and dear to me is the aspect of community. And that's, very much in relation to what Jill has put forth in terms of the inclusivity and increasing that in our community within ABCT and our membership, and also thinking a little bit more broadly with in terms of community and community partnerships and some of the communities that our members exist in, and how do we create more community, particularly among clinicians. We've heard time and again that it's harder for our independent practices, group practice clinicians to maybe access, whether it's the conference or some of our materials, or so thinking about ways of increasing their access to some of us, and then forming more formal sort of partnerships in the community, in the actual communities where we exist. We have wonderful folks doing amazing things in these communities. And for example, like I said before, sort of giving it away. How are we giving away our science? And then listening to the folks who are in the field doing some very cool things and forming more partnerships. We have so many resources. If you go to our website, there are syllabi, there are fact sheets, there are all these wonderful things that really smart people spent a lot of time on. And Stephanie in central office, who's amazing as a copy editor, by the way, and graphic designer, gave some eyes to and looked over. And they kind of sit there unless someone happens to look them up. And so I want us to do a better job at sort of putting that information out there, and in partnership, getting feedback from some communities. So there'll be some community-based initiatives about how to sort of give it away beyond our membership. So that's a little bit of what's going on. And then the other thing, I know we've talked about this before. We talk about ABCT is often linked to the conference. Are you going to ABCT? Right? It's not, are you going to the ABCT conference? It's, are you going to ABCT? As if that's the only thing. And so in the same spirit of that is expanding, how do we expand sort of the definition of who we are? That's a little bit existential, and that's something for the board to take up. And we take it up and to take up again. And, I've quoted Yogi Berra before. I'm a big Yankee fan, as you know, the future ain't what it used to be. So we need to continue to reevaluate where we are now with respect to some of that stuff. So that's what comes to mind. I also talk with my hands. Just for those
that's very well. We have video here for anybody that's just listening. If you want to see,
please, you'll see.
If you want to see the hands going on,
the Jersey thing, Portuguese,
You might have heard Sandy talking about bringing it in to send it out. And I could tell you she is very passionate about that initiative. How do we bring money and resources in so that we can resource that out to people that need it, whether that be in the community or whether that be people in our field that need a little extra help in order to get the same resources that other of us have the privilege of having. So I think you're probably going to be seeing a big push for that this year. So I'm pretty excited for that to come.
And if anyone is interested in joining forces, feel free to reach out.
Mm-hmm. Yep, she'll respond.
We'll always put you to work, right, Jill?
Right,
we'll always
exactly.
find space.
Every meeting that Sandy and I have with a member, we're like, and what else? Here's a role that you might want to do, or can we call you about another role in the future? So,
it's so cool. I mean, Jill and I have been on these calls, and someone took the time to reach out to her, to our general email, to someone in our office, to me, and wants to take time out of their day. These are busy graduate students. Yeah, we're all busy. And if you care that much, even if it's in, productive dialogue and feedback and critique, I think that's amazing. And so why wouldn't we want that voice also heard and involved, and, to sort of roll up our sleeves together?
Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to this and you're passionate about doing something differently or being, or some change in ABCT, come talk to us, because we would love to work with you.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's as easy as that, as asking. I mean, I got more involved because I saw there was that a local arrangements chair position in the Manhattan conference, and I just volunteered, and they're like, great. And then, so it's a wonderful organization. They want you to be a part of it. So if you want to be a part of it, don't hesitate, just to ask.
You could say on the one hand that there's not an open role every minute for someone, but there often are. And we are asked all the time by others in leadership, committee chairs, coordinators, staff about somebody who might be good for a particular role. And, we're thinking about the people who applied to be change leaders, or some of the amazing persons who applied for the student convention pass. I mean, there were just so many wonderful, incredibly talented early career and other professionals and students in this organization. And so the more we know about you, the easier it is to kind of identify and say, this person would be great. We're trying new mechanisms to make sure that pool is as diverse as possible, so in any way that we can help achieve that's going to be a real positive for everyone.
And there's a lot of committees doing a lot of different things.
Always.
Yeah. So, people we're not just therapists or assessors or clinicians, right? We have like marketing, dissemination, whatever it might be. So there might be a home for you if you have a side passion. And I believe that there is something on the website with all the committees listed.
All the committees, all the SIGs. If you have a passion for any aspect of it, or you just want to get involved to see, what it might be like, perhaps there's a position with awards or with continuing education, or with membership or in one of the SIGs. It's nice to just put a toe in, and see what that experience is like. And hopefully it builds for you, as you become more familiar with those in the organization, as well as more broadly with what we do.
And for those, I think, who have students, recommending that they get involved early. And even if they're not sure, I had the good fortune of sort of being part of a lab that sort of was automatic that we all went to ABCT and then we got involved. And so it sort of was baked into my experience. And I was very lucky. I didn't even realize at the time. And someone recommended me to do, I was the program chair back in 2008. And then it's sort of, kind of like you, Jason, be careful what you do a good job at. They'll keep asking you to participate and be a part of committee. And then you chair a committee, then you become a coordinator, then you become, right? And so it doesn't even have to lead to that. And there are so many opportunities. And for some, it's a little harder, I think, to sort of walk in the door and sort of peek in. And they might need a mentor or a sponsor or, somebody to sort of shepherd them a little bit more directly. And I'll hope that we can continue to do a better job. And, Jill's initiative, the Change Leaders, is really one sort of targeted to doing just that. And we need sort of more of that sort of generally, that model generally. So
this year, I believe that the phrase is cultivating joy through CBT.
Joy. Yeah.
Yeah. But what does that mean, and how is that going to actually be actualized this year?
Well, I'll tell you how it developed through collaboration with our program chairs, Emily Bylick and Crystal Lewis, who are both amazing. And also I want to acknowledge the entire convention committee led by Dr. Tina Boisseau. So we thought about how challenging the world is right now, first and foremost. And it's only gotten more difficult, more challenging, more divisive, as this year has gone on, and how many people were struggling through some really difficult experiences, and wanting in a way for us to talk about ways to increase positive affect, well-being, experiencing of positive emotions, just as a part of cognitive behavioral therapy, which we don't talk about as often, right? We really focus on the reduction of negative emotion and not so much the increase of positive emotion, at least as often. So that was one motivation. And I think the second really being wanting to allow the convention experience to itself have more positive experiencing opportunities and positive emotion building activities beyond just the kind of normal educational excitement and the excitement of seeing friends and colleagues that we always have with ABCT's convention. So I think those two things together brought us to this theme.
And so what can we expect at the convention, where, like, how is this going to actually happen?
I think it's happening through a lot of different mechanisms. On the one hand, we have speakers who are going to speak to that theme of cultivating joy. It actually, even though it wasn't a criteria for evaluation in the submissions this year, we actually did not select necessarily based on convention theme. There were a lot of people who attended to it in their presentations. So we have a lot across symposia, panel discussions. Otherwise, several of our keynote speakers are speaking about either interventions to increase positive emotion and joy, or speaking about the experience of joy, or reducing trauma and oppression in order to experience more positive emotion. But we're also doing some joy-focused activities that we've not tried before. There's going to be a cardio dance class. There's going to be an ice cream walk. There's going to be yoga. There's a positive or sort of a joy wall where people can just write down what brings them joy. We've partnered with Be the Match, so people could, potentially register for that in order to give back as well. So just in a number of different ways to have that additional experience. I think there's been some increasing talk about how it's difficult sometimes for people to go to conventions these days on weekends and be away and have that as sort of an expected thing that people do. And so we wanted to try not only to welcome families by including childcare and things along those lines, but we also wanted, if you were going to go away to this convention and be away from your family, be away from your lab, be away from the things that you need to do every day, for it to be a more immersive experience in that regard.
Well, that sounds very cool. Very different than, what I've seen at the convention so far. So I'm excited to see all this put into action and putting something on the wall.
For sure.
Yeah.
Go to the wellness room.
Oh, and there's a wellness room.
Yeah, so there'll be wellness, yoga and cardio in the wellness room, but you can also just go in there at any time, if you want to meditate, if you just want a quiet space, that sort of thing.
Oh, very cool.
Did you mention the karaoke? Did I?
Oh gosh, karaoke. Yes.
I know. You were like pulling at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
The karaoke is near and dear to my heart, but I don't know if I'm going to get up there and sing. But I will.
Exposure.
Right?
That's right, Jason.
I mean,
exposure.
I will sing. I don't know that anybody else will enjoy me singing, but I think we wanted that Saturday evening party to have some other elements to it that people could enjoy, and so there'll be both karaoke and then a subsequent dance party.
Well, you might hear me sing "I Want It That Way" by the Backstreet Boys.
Yes.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. The presidential address is going to be looking a bit different this year. What can we expect there? And then what was your thinking for shifting it?
So I want to give credit where credit is due, because this is something that several members of the board have been talking about together going back quite a ways, maybe to 2021. We want people to be able to see themselves in leadership, and whether that is, and there has been some thought that perhaps some people feel that a barrier to running, say, for president of ABCT is that they would have to give this big research talk at the convention. And while I personally would have felt comfortable to do that, I wanted to demonstrate through my actions that there were other ways to present oneself as a leader in that space. And so I've invited several amazing early to mid career researchers who are doing inventive, innovative work in the youth mental health space to talk about how to deal with our current youth mental health crisis. What are innovations that might help address some of these issues from a number of different angles and perspectives, everything from using computational modeling to very large population health-based solutions. So they're going to give flash talks during that presidential panel, and then we'll have, with whatever time remaining, a little bit of dialogue and discussion to follow.
Okay. Very, very cool. I think it's a really nice shift in what's doing. And I love that principle of don't just think it, do it. I mean, I just, that sounded very CBT. I didn't mean it in that way, but like put your money where your mouth is, reap what you sow, you know, like this is what you want to promote. And so you're actually doing it.
And I do want to say, I don't think this means that next year we have to do something different from a presidential address,
sure,
or the year after that, or the year after that. What I wanted to just demonstrate is that it could be flexible, and that it could be different if people wanted it to be different, that this is, you know, could be viewed as sort of the president's time as opposed to necessarily a presidential address. And I certainly don't want to minimize the impact of what have been some amazing presidential addresses in years past. But I thought, you know, why not? Let's try something different.
But to your point, like I'm a full-time clinician. I'm not a researcher, and I did my dissertation and a thesis, I guess. You know, but if I was president, or like, I don't know if I could give a comprehensive research speech. So it does that. Just opening up that to a different format allows different people to potentially be president in the future. So it's a really great initiative. Okay. And anything, and you might have answered this with the joy wall and the yoga room and the wellness room, but anything that both of you guys are particularly excited about during the convention this year? It could be a talk, but it doesn't have to be a talk. Like it could be whatever.
I'll jump in. One of the cool aspects of being president-elect to the outgoing and then me being the incoming president is that you get to introduce the president before her panel or speech. And so I have been very busy this is what I'm most nervous and excited about, truthfully, because I want to do Jill's amazingness justice in many ways. So I've been gathering intel and recon from various sources. And so that's bringing me joy, actually, and a little bit of nervousness and excitement because I want to get it right. And so that's I'll say that. How about that?
I'm scared.
Oh, no.
You look scared, actually.
I know. I told Sandy to feel free to do what she wishes in this. And, I'm excited.
Jill gave me full access, which has been wonderful. The other thing, and I'll just say this: I love the awards ceremony.
Me too.
It just, outside of and inside of the theme of the current conference, it really showcases just the talent that we have, and from sort of the general and the bigger awards and the new presidents and the service awards and the champions, and there are so many people doing so many cool things. And I want to give a shout out to one of the recipients of the award is actually the task force that I mentioned before, and shout out to, let's see if I get them all, Doctors Ryan Delap, Chris Cho, Sierra Carter, Brian Feinstein, Anu Asnani, Jay Puckett, Christina Lopez, and Rayanne Anderson. And that crew sort of was really, they started in 2019 and kept going as a task force through 2020. Remember 2020? And the amount of work they did was really phenomenal. And so I'm so glad that they're getting the Service to ABCT award and just all of the awards there. It just really brings me a lot of joy. The other thing that always reminds me is that who are we missing? There are so many people doing cool things. When you look at the applications that don't get the award, it's really astonishing. And so that's always a fun aspect of the conference for me.
I want to highlight two other things. Those are also, I love the award ceremony. Even before I was on the board, I would always go because it's just like, it's emotional and it's exciting. So we're going to have the first presentation, not in the English language at ABCT. Rosara Arango-Aguayo, who was actually the program chair last year, is going to give a presentation on TFCBT in Spanish. There will be simultaneous translation available for attendees to English. So that was something that Rosara and I at a different convention kind of dreamed up together. And I'm really glad to see it coming to fruition. In addition to that, probably one of my favorite sessions of many, is that Is It DBT often does a clinical DBT demonstration at ABCT. And it's usually packed, like people, standing room only. So we decided to move it to the main stage this year.
Oh, wow.
And so they're going to be doing a clinical grand rounds demonstration. And I, again, suspect it will be packed even in the much larger room. So I can't wait to see that also amongst, again, the many exciting presentations this year.
All right. Well, if you're watching the video, you see their faces. So if you see them, say hi. They are very nice. They will say hi back. They will talk to you. If you're listening to the audio on YouTube, you can see the video. So then you could come see their faces so you know who you're looking for. The other thing that I would just recommend is there's a lot of people that members want to meet, but might be too anxious to go up and approach and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I was nervous to do that in the beginning too. And I did do it and people were very responsive. So if there is anybody that you want to speak to, most people at ABCT are very friendly. So, break out of your shell, go ahead and do it. There's a lot of volunteer opportunities at ABCT. If you want to get more involved, please ask. I'm going to be the chair of the development committee. We have spots available for people to join that. And that's part of the initiative to fundraise and gather resources in order to give it back. And so if you're passionate about that, you have my name, Jason Duncan. You can find me. I'll be there the entire time. Okay. Any last words or thoughts before we sign off?
No, I think we're both really excited to get to the convention next week and to welcome our members again. Last year was the first convention back in person after a number of virtual meetings, and it was joyous. And I think that was a big part of what informed this theme, was that just visceral experience of being together again, just generated so much positive emotion. And I really hope that people have that same experience this coming week and get a chance to meet with each other and, talk and talk about ideas that they don't agree on, and to talk about, the ways that things can be better in the future, to meet new people, to meet new mentors, and really live, kind of this ABCT experience to the fullest.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much more to add than that. I'm looking forward to it. I have big shoes that I'm following. It's been a real pleasure and honor. That's the other part in service. You get to meet and work alongside and get to know really amazing people. And it's been a real joy to me to be able to work alongside Jill, who has had with our board, I think, a lot of work and heavy lifting. And she's been a model leader, in my opinion. And so I will hope to, follow that and keep doing some of the work. And I welcome anyone who wants to, as I said before, roll up their sleeves and join us and have a little fun along the way. See you in Seattle. We'll have some coffee, right? That's what,
That's what you do in Seattle.
Yeah.
I do have to say one more thing on top of that, which is that I am looking forward to Sandy's leadership, not just because I won't be president anymore, but also because I rely on Sandy, because to me, Sandy has a back knowledge of ABCT that is so extensive and so helpful, and is just also one of the nicest people and always so kind and considerate. I really look forward to her leadership in this next year and supporting her and the whole board.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Well, thanks both of you for all the, hard work that you have done. And I know that both of you guys have been completely inundated with the convention coming up next week. So thank you for all that you do. And thank you for actually cutting out time to do this. We're recording on, what's today? November 9th, which is, literally like a week away from the convention. So thank you for taking the time to do this and speaking to membership and letting everybody know what great work we're doing and what you hope to see coming up.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.